What's up, everybody? This is Rob Shack. So today we're going to be doing the next video in my Gran Turismo 3 rival series. I'm going to be racing the 787B versus the Pagani Zonda race car. These are both very good cars. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I did not mean to hit save. We're keeping it in. It's fine. If you're new to the channel, what I'm doing with this series is I drive the 2 or 3 cars that I'm rivaling, bring them up, take them on complex string, give it a run on a lap on there, then take them on an AI race where they race each other, ideally, which so far has been the case. And then from there, I do a max speed test at the end to just show each of them in their max speedy goodness, if you will. So it'll be good. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Help me get to 1,000 subs. That's the goal. Y'all are awesome. We're over 500, and there's about 17% of my subscribers that or viewers are now subscribed, which is practically double from like a month and a half ago. So thank y'all so much. Keep it up, and y'all are great. So if you're new, yeah, I think I already said this stuff before, but I'm gonna kind of talk about each car, kind of give some descriptions of each and what they do and how they drive, how they handle, how they feel, stuff like that. Give my opinions of which one is the best. Again, usually they're really close because the way that Gran Turismo 3 worked, because they didn't have a lot of cars in this game, they basically set it up where that certain cars would end up kind of rivaling each other. So, you know, earlier in my series here, you have the Denso Sard Supra versus the Castro Toms, and you have, like, you know, the Viper GTSR Team Areca versus the Corvette C5R. So you kind of just have these little, you know, matchups against other cars, and it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. Kind of helps not having as many cars if you kind of give them an opponent. So that's why, if you'll notice, I have the Alteza in one of my earlier videos. In that video, you can tell that the Alteza is much slower in later games, but it's a fictional car, and they made it faster in this game to compete with other cars. So that's kind of what they go for. But yeah, I do that, then I'll show an II race, and then max speed test. So yeah, hope you all enjoy. And this is one of my favorite cars in the game, going right in. It's been a few minutes. This is the Mazda 787B from '91 with the Epic Renown decal on the front. It's the number 55 livery. One of the most iconic cars in Mazda's existence, if you ask me. Also one of the best sounding cars in all of Gran Turismo. They kind of nailed this sound from the beginning. They have the iconic scream of the Wankel rotary. I think it's a Wankel rotary. Don't quote me on that, but it is a rotary engine. I know that. I just know that the Wankel was in the RX-8, and I think they just updated it for the RX-8, and it was still a rotary in the 91. But let me know what it is. I don't actually remember. But yeah, Mazda 787B, based on the Mazda 767B and the 767 and the Mazda 787. This is the only rotary to ever race in Le Mans, and well, the only rotary racer to win Le Mans, because they used the 787 and the 767B. Those were cars earlier. But yeah, this was the only rotary to win, and it's also the only time Mazda has ever won. And up until the Toyota, whatever the Toyota that won Le Mans back in 2017 was, this was the only Japanese car to win Le Mans for a very long time until Toyota won it in the last few years. They won it a bunch with their diesel hybrid thing. So yeah, pretty legendary car. I mean, if you want to, most top view videos on YouTube will have this car in it for the best sounding cars and best Group C and best LMP and best everything, best sounding cars in existence. It's the 787B is usually on there. Most people have heard of it because it actually won. The other ones sound good too, but you know, also the combination of this car with its livery, with the orange and green and the 55 and the Renown and all that. It's just such a great car. And in this game, I think it's one of the fastest cars. I mean, obviously the Formula One cars are kind of in a league of their own, but the Mazdas are, this car is actually tunable. The Formula One car, you can't actually tune. You can't make it any faster. This is one of the fastest cars in the game. Only 5-speed in this game because it's 91. But it's super fast, super quick. It's a 91, so it does not have the best handling, and you can see that in the way that I've been driving it. It's a monster. It flies. It has very little control, but if you can handle it, it's going to do you really well. It's a very, very fast car, extremely quick. It never really slows down until it hits upper RPMs of the 5th gear. It just kind of keeps going, and it's because the Rotary engine is very efficient in its power, so that's part of the reason why it's so good. It is able to generate a lot of efficiency. It's fuel inefficient, but that doesn't really matter in this game. But it's able to really maintain its speed for a really, really, really long time. And it's super beautiful looking car, very iconic. The front has aged well. The back hasn't really aged that well, but it's like you can literally see like the parts in the back of it, so it's an amazing car. It's really, really good. Very iconic car, great brakes, surprisingly, given that it's a 91. I very much underestimated the brakes at the first turn last lap. So this car is easily one of the best cars in the game. I think it is better if you, as a human player, I think it's better than the R390. The R390 is very, very good and has more power. But again, that thing that is very interesting to note about the Mazda 787B is it has only 980 something horsepower in this game, and it's able to beat most cars that have like 1300, and it's because, again, the rotary engine is so efficient in its power, so you're able to keep up with and even beat cars that are supposed to be way faster than you if you're going straight off of horsepower. Its torque is insane. Everything about this car's power is just so colossally amazing, and it sounds so good. I mean, of course, the only weakness to this car is its handling, because it's a 91. You're going to always have that situation with a car like this. It kind of slides around the course, as you can see here when I pull it back to the 3D view, or third-person view, if you will. I don't know if you can call that third person, but it kind of is. The behind-the-car view. It definitely wants to slide around, and I have the turning control stability thing on, so that's part of what helps it. But, I mean, it is a wild car, very, very powerful, very out of control, wants to spin out, wants to slide, but if you can keep that grip down, it'll take care of you. Of course, if you overbrake or underbrake like I did there, you're not going to be able to make a turn, but its acceleration is insane. It just kind of feels like it keeps getting faster and faster, and it doesn't really suffer from any lag. It feels like it kind of consistently accelerates. You know how some cars, when they get near the higher RPMs, it'll start to noticeably slow down. This car doesn't really do that. It just kind of keeps going forever. It just continues to accelerate, and it's just fantastic. Yeah, the only thing about it is its handling is rather rough, and it's because it's 91. A thing I always wondered about with Gran Turismo 3 is why they didn't date the cars. I thought this was a new car when it came out in 2001, when this game came out in 2001, but this car was 10 years old at that time. I don't know why they didn't date it. They didn't date any cars in this game. Like, they have the Shelby Cobra in this game, and it has no date. You're like, clearly this is a muscle car. Why does no date? Why are there no dates? But that's just a GT3 thing. I think it's because there's not enough cars in the game. They just were like, you know, we're gonna do it. It's gonna be racing outside my house. It's a Mustang, nice. But yeah, so that's all I really have to say on this car. It's easily one of my favorite cars in the game just because it's so iconic and it's so powerful. It has the power to match it, and it's difficult to handle, which is also part of the reason why it's fun. This car, having a car that's hard to handle is kind of like a thing that is super rewarding in these games. If you can handle a car that's so hard to control, you just feel good about yourself as like a racer in these games. You feel like you can handle anything if your car is insane, but you handle it well. So that's part of the reason why I like this car so much. I have a lot of good things to say, obviously. I've spent so much time talking about this car in this video. I need to switch over to the Pagani soon. But yeah, this car, very good. Easily one of the best cars in the game, and one of my favorite cars, and most people's favorite cars. When you look at top 10 lists of cars in this game, usually you see a 787B on here. I just realized that I've never made a video like that, so I probably should do it. I will do that later. A lot of good videos in the pipeline for me. So we're gonna switch over to the Pagani Zonda now. Alright, now we're in the Pagani Zonda race car. This car has, again, so much more horsepower than the 787B, but you're going to notice, again, as I've said before, the 787B is super good with its power distribution, so you're able to get a lot more out of the smaller horsepower. Now we're on to the Pagani Zonda LM race car, or just the Pagani race car. I don't really know. Sometimes they throw an LM in there, and I don't know why. This car sounds great. It sounds just like the Pagani Zonda C12S, and it looks like it. It's not quite. It has a very similar look. I mean, it's essentially just a race car version of the Pagani Zonda C12S, which is the souped-up version of the Pagani Zonda C12. There's obviously just 3 Paganis in this game, and eventually they add more later. But this car is very, very good as well. Another race car coming by my house. I don't know if I can hear that, but if you can. There's another tuner coming by my house. A lot of tuners drive by my house, so it's kind of like why I'm a Gran Turismo channel. That's what's up. So yeah, this is the Pagani Zonda. Very good looking car. I think it has a couple colors, but this is the black one. I just got it as a random prize car. Very good car, very fast. Also kind of hard to control, so that's why I picked this car along with the 787B, because they're kind of similar in that they're both kind of monster cars that are really fast, really aggressive, great sound, menacing sounds, but and also kind of tough in handling. There's only one race too that these two cars actually race together. I'm really struggling to control this car right now. I was not expecting it to be this insane for me. I should probably be more focused, but again, I'm a genuine channel here. I'm just trying to. I like to talk while I play the game because I think it's more entertaining that way. You can see me drive horribly, and it's funny. So, Pagani Zonda, great sound, menacing, very powerful car, very very good in the lower RPMs. You can see the turbo lag a little bit, slows down a little bit, and when you get to the closer to the red line, as most cars do. Again, the 787B is very rare in that way. This car is very very quick in its mid gears. It's a little bit, since it's got so much power, as most cars that have over 1,000 horsepower do in this game. It is trying so hard to utilize that power, it starts to spin the wheels a little bit in the lower gears, but once you hit the third gear, you freaking fly with the Pagani Zonda race car. It's very, very good, looks great. The Pagani Zonda is a beautiful car, and the LM race car of it looks amazing as well. They definitely, Polyphony is very good at making these cars really good. Any fictional cars in these games are like depicted very respectfully and very well done. I think they just do a good job of kind of paying a homage to the car itself and to what and I mean, I'm sure there's like some Pagani race car that looks sort of like this, and they're kind of basing off of that, so at least they're not like totally, it's just not totally inaccurate, but they do a good job, and I've always liked the way they've depicted LM race cars in these games. I'm kind of getting the hang of this Pagani now. Takes a little bit of getting used to for these cars that have less handling. You kind of have to get it under control a lot more. But the Pagani is very, very good as well. Very fast, can really handle itself once you start to get used to it. It kind of slides around corners. You can kind of almost drift it in a way. If the tires start to get worn, I'm sure that would be a real doozy. But this car does a great job of holding its position. It's kind of hard to get it off the road. It's hard to get it unsettled, but once it starts to slide, then it's really hard to get it resettled again. So it's kind of one of those cars that once you push it beyond its comfort zone, it's going to be hard to control, but up until that point, it's good. Very aggressive car again, very very fast, very powerful, a little bit inefficient with the power in the lower gears, which again, that's why the 787B has that going for it. I do think that the 787B is harder to control in this car. I think it's just because of how I'm driving it, that I'm not handling it as well. I've gotten a lot better since the first few turns. I think the 787B is a little bit harder to handle. I've just driven it more, so I'm used to it more. But this car has a little bit more grip, which would make sense because it's an 01. I think technically they date this LM race car as an 01, or maybe a 2000s Pagani Zonda. I don't remember. But I think the handling is way better for this car compared to the 787B. Obviously, you would hope that, given that it's a 10 years or more newer car. So that should be the case. So I'll probably get a better lap time with this thing. But it'll be close though, because I've kind of driven off the road some. But yeah, I think this car is really good. I think I would still give it to the Pagani, or to the 787B, just because one, it's just so iconic, but two, I think it generally has more power, and most of the races that you have the Pagani with, or these cars with, you're gonna need you're gonna have these big long straights, most corners. I think like on Laguna Seca, I think the Pagani Zonda would do better. I think on obviously Complex Street, you're gonna do better with the Pagani because of the fact that the Pagani Zonda is just a lot better handling car. Even though I just totally missed my brake line there, so that was hilarious. But yeah, I would give handling to the Pagani, iconicness, if that's even a category, to the 787B, sound to the 787B, but it's close, and then power to the 787B as well. But again, that's that type of thing where these cars kind of rival each other because they're both like aggressive, powerful cars that have a great sound. But I think you're going to get that tight. If you race this car on Laguna Seca, for example, I think you're going to beat a lot of other cars, and you're going to beat the 787B. But when you race against something like if you race this car on straight test course, for example, you're not going to beat the 787B because the 787B is very good in its power. So now I'm going to do the one race that is... I'm just going to keep doing donuts out here in the grass while I announce the next thing I'm doing. I'm going to go and do the one race that I think these two cars race in, and we're going to get it going. Alrighty, here we go, everybody. So yeah, we actually ended up getting the perfect race that I wanted to see here. This race was pretty hilarious. The Zonda and the 787B actually started in first and second. And then this freaking Corvette here was just aggroing me all the time. So I'm actually going to start this replay over. I want y'all to watch. This stupid Corvette was just like destroying me in this race, like pushing me off the road. So as much as this is an AI battle between the 787B, I gave him a boost there. I passed him, and then he just doesn't brake, hits me there, then pushes me. Well, actually, I pushed him second. Yeah, he pushed me wide. I pushed him there. We're both slammed into the walls. Then he ends up aggroing past me again as I mess up there. And so I was just like, I'm going to destroy this freaking Corvette as he battles me. But then it ended up being fine. Yeah. And this ends up being a battle between the 787B and the Pagani Zonda. This race actually was more interesting than I expected, and I've forgotten about one little piece of very important information here with the Pagani Zonda versus the 787B, and that is tire wear. I totally forgot about this. The 787B in this game like doesn't have tire wear. I don't know if they like bugged it, but its tire wear is like really non-factor. It like doesn't really happen. It's pretty interesting that that's what happens here. So I'm gonna show y'all that more as this Toyota GT1 finally gets past this Corvette and this Ford GT40. Yeah, the Corvette was just being weird, and I thought it was funny. And then the GT1 GT40 goes flying. The AI, I thought they would handle this course a little bit better, but they really don't. So yeah, the Corvette was very aggressive, pushed me. Then I was a child and shoved him wide. Then he shoved me back. Then we just kind of battled it out, and somehow the Ford and the GT1 did so bad that the Corvette ended up passing them both, which is hilarious. This is the part of the race where I want to switch now because it was just funny. So the Zonda is better than the 787B everywhere except for the straight. The 787B has a couple turns where he does a good job, but generally he's just way, way, way faster. But you'll see this car just goes, the 787B will just go flying off the road. Well, if there was no road. If there was no borders, he would do that. But he just flies into all these walls and has these specific turns on the special stage Route 11 that he does very, very poorly. And as a result of that, you'll see that the Zonda will stick with him for a while, but then and this is where I forgot about this. So the Zonda will pass him and start winning, but then eventually the Zonda's tires wear, and I had totally forgotten about this. The Zonda's tires wear much faster than the 787B's. So as they battle for a while, they, get physical, shove each other into walls, just like how everybody does in this game. It's great. But then eventually, the Zonda will actually go into the pit well before the 787B. So the 787B is again, rather wild and crazy, flying into corners, pushing the Zonda there. As a result of that, this is the one corner right here that the 787B does really, really well. But since he was battling the Zonda, it wasn't that good. But yeah, the 787B has a few turns on this course that he does well, but generally he goes wide and slams into walls a lot, and the Zonda does it some if they're battling, but generally it's just the 787B who does this. Goes well into corners of, like, that was a terrible turn, not good, and the AI kind of shows the inconsistency of the 787B, shows that he's difficult to handle. This corner right here is one of the worst. He'll brake late, slide into the turn, and then just nail the wall. The Zonda does it too, but not nearly as bad. So every single time that corner ends, the 787B doesn't do a very good job, and then also slides very... I don't know if he goes wide and then decides to try to cut it back inward, but does a really bad job on the turn to get to the straightaway. He's super fast, so I'm like not worried about him on the straight, but it's just like these corners are the reason what I'm referring to, where the Zonda, if you had better tires on the Zonda, he would be able to beat the 787B handedly. But because the 787B's tires are wearing so much slower, he's able to actually stick with and be ahead of the Zonda. And they obviously pushed each other. But you'll see, like, when you compare how they take some of these corners, it's not even a contest. That the 787B really struggles on certain corners. And just, it's like, I mean, again, it's just the 91 versus the 2001. You see how the Zonda doesn't hit as many walls, stays under control a lot more. And the 787B, meanwhile, is just flying, braking late, and then cutting corners, sliding into them, trying to get the apex, missing them a lot. It's just kind of weird, but that's just, I mean, I don't expect anything different from a car that's 10 years older, but its power is just so insane that it's able to keep up and then even take the lead as the Zonda's tires get weak. It's just interesting to me. The AI definitely drive these cars differently than people do. Like, I don't really know why they're taking those corners like that, but that's just kind of what they do. But you can see, like, the 77B takes corners and, like, just is sliding all over the place. Like, you see him, his back tires are cutting out. The Zonda doesn't have that problem. Even with yellow tires, he's still holding the line way better and actually hitting the apex on corners. Like, I don't know why they programmed it this way, but I mean, probably just to keep it realistic to what the 787B would be like if it was racing a car 10 years later that had less power. It would basically be, if it can hold the lead until the straight, it's fine, but up until that point, it struggles immensely to stay in front. The GT1 finally passed. I actually didn't expect the GT40 to be behind the Corvette. That's actually not what I was expecting, so that's interesting. But yeah, this is just kind of something that's interesting to me with this race, and I think this is the only race that these two cars race each other, and it's just interesting how the Zonda really does, like, it has the handling, it does not have the power, and apparently it has the tire wear, which it does not do well in tire wear. I had totally forgotten about that element when I was talking about it earlier, and that's because this is an endurance race. It actually kind of really makes a huge difference. So you're going to see that the Zonda is getting actually pretty close to pitting. I'm in the lead. I was the R390 this race. It kind of worked out. All the major cars were in the same race. So yeah, you'll see that the Zonda, I mean, as the tires start to get more worn, he does start to slide a little bit more. The 787B is doing that with tires that are not as worn, so that's what I'm referring to. The handling definitely goes to the Zonda. Power goes to the 787B. Tire wear goes to the 787B. And it's a pretty great race. Yeah, the GT40 sucks. I didn't expect that either. GT1 took a while to pass the slow cars, and as a result of that, struggled to get in front. GT40 brakes late and slams into every wall, so I mean, that gets kind of repetitive to see that over and over again. You can see that the Zonda now is starting to slide out on corners way more than he was before. 787B is still just doing whatever the heck that is right there, where he just brakes late, he starts to tail slide into the corner. Zonda does it a little bit too, but just not as bad. So I'll let the race continue for a little bit, and then I'll let it end. I drive 6 laps. The race will end when I start to go into the pit, but it's interesting stuff. GT1 is catching up to the Zonda too as we speak, because the Zonda's tires are getting worn. But yeah, it's a good race. I'll kind of flip back and forth between them as we finish, and then I'll do a max speed test between the two. I expect the 787B to win, but the Zonda's still really good. So hope this video is intriguing. Good stuff. Thank y'all for the support. Help me get to 1,000 subs. Y'all are awesome, and peace.